As a child in small-town Texas, Charles Ray spent countless hours poring over encyclopedias and old copies of National Geographic magazine, dreaming of faraway places.
I grew up with this picture of this world outside of rural East Texas that I was determined to see. And as soon as I graduated from high school, I packed a bag, walked out to the highway, flagged down a Greyhound bus, and started to go looking for that world. There were two things that I was determined to see when I left home in 1962. One was the Great Wall, and the other was Stonehenge.
More on that later. His first stop, the U.S. Army. That took him to Europe and Asia, including Korea, where he met his wife. As his military career was winding down, he realized there was much more of the world he wanted to see. He took the Foreign Service exam and became a diplomat.
I said, I want to go to China. That's it. I have one choice for my assignment, Guangzhou, China. That's it.
He spent 6 months learning Chinese, and in 1983, wife and 2 small children in tow, he landed in Guangzhou.
I was a consular officer doing visa interviews for immigrants, which gave me an insight into China's culture and society that even our political officers had trouble with.
There were very few black Americans in China at that time, especially who spoke Chinese. He said he didn't experience racism in China, but he did encounter many curious people.
If you showed an interest in them, in their language, and their food, and I'm a great eater, that you break through a lot of those barriers, and that after a while, they're no longer responding to you as a foreigner, regardless of color. They're responding to you as a slightly strange person that they're getting to know.
What did you make of China's development at that time?
The development in China at that time was pretty uneven. I mean, you had the coastal cities like Shanghai and Guangzhou that you could see were starting to develop more or less modern economies.
But other areas were still far from modern. After 2 years, he was transferred to one of those less developed cities.
My first job was in Guangzhou, yes, and my second was in Shenyang.
In the north.
In the north, yeah.
He remained in China for 2 more years, moving on in 1987. He later held various posts, returning to China from time to time, before being named U.S. Ambassador to Cambodia in 2003 during the George W. Bush administration, and U.S. Ambassador to Zimbabwe under President Barack Obama from 2009 to 2012 when he retired. Through it all, he has kept an eye on what's happening in China.
What do you make of China today?
I mean, you know, China's landed a Mars rover. They've basically matched us in a lot of technology. They are coming close to being a peer military competitor in a lot of areas in the Pacific. Their economy is on track to be bigger than ours.
And with that development comes confidence at home and on the world stage. But he says that both countries should see opportunities, not threats.
We have a lot of issues where we and the Chinese don't see eye to eye, and we need to learn to manage those. But there are a lot of other areas where the two sides can actually work well together. If we make the U.S.-China relationship one-dimensional, we feel threatened because they're more self-confident, or they feel threatened because we resent their new self-confidence. All we're doing is hurting ourselves.
And yes, he did visit Stonehenge in England and the Great Wall of China.
When I got out and walked up onto a section of the wall looking, I was stuck. I was speechless. I mean, it was, I'm not the type to be moved to tears, but I think if I were, I would have probably cried at that moment because it was just absolutely awesome.
Jim Spellman, CGTN, Woodbine, Maryland.
Those photos in some of those articles.